Hello Greens, how are you? My name is Michael O'Neill. I'm your friendly Green Party of New York organizer, and this is how Greens get things done. And every Sunday around this time, I talk to you about the tips, tricks, and techniques that Greens need to get things done, to build their party, build their campaigns, have an impact on the issues and conversations and discussions that mean a lot to us as Greens, as activists, as members of the left. And last week we actually talked about some email management tips on how to kind of more efficiently send emails when you've got multiple recipients. We talked about how to use a free and open source program called Thunderbird, that's Mozilla Thunderbird, and a plugin called Mail Merge to be able to basically email merge from your email address for free. And if you've ever done printing of address labels or things like that, you use Mail Merge within a Office product like Microsoft Office or LibreOffice to generate automatically multiple copies of an address label or a form letter, where the software then plugs in different contact information for each person for each copy that's going to go out. Mail Merge does that for your emails when you're working with it in Thunderbird. Now on that stream, I talked about another tool called MailChimp, which is more of closer to an enterprise level email list management system. However, you can use it for free. It's for free for up to, I think, a couple thousand contacts and for maybe 10,000 email messages per month. So if you've got 2,000 people in there, you could send five messages per month. And that is more than sufficient for a green group that is just getting started and is just getting a handle on moving from a spreadsheet of email contacts, or maybe just a Google group for an announcement list, to something where you have more management tools and where you can send a higher frequency of email announcements. So MailChimp is a announcement e-blast system. It's not an email discussion list. And MailChimp, like I said, is free for up to a couple thousand or maybe 3,000 email contacts in there. And you'll learn some really good principles about email composition and also best practices for managing your list and creating custom fields for like tracking the neighborhood of your contacts or what their particular interests are, or have they indicated that they're willing to volunteer. And as you move on to maybe beefier tools like Nation Builder or other systems for list management, the skills that you learn in MailChimp will apply. So if you're just getting started, this is a great product to sign up for. Like I said, it's free. You've got no risk. It's a reputable firm, and get your feet wet, start playing around. So we're going to do a deeper dive into MailChimp in this live stream. And to kick that off, we're going to transition to the magic window. And now as I'm doing this, I want to mention that I am doing my best to keep track of any questions or comments in the live stream here. I do have the post for the live stream up, and I see we've got a few shares. So thank you very much to the Upper Hudson Green Party for sharing this live stream. And thank you very much to a few other people who have shared. And let's get right into it. So in the magic window, you can see I've got MailChimp up in my web browser. It is an online product, and so you need a web browser to access it. It seems to prefer using Chrome or a Google Chrome or a Chrome-based variant, but you shouldn't have any problems in Safari or anything else like that. But you do want to make sure that your web browser is up to date when you're using MailChimp. This is the dashboard that greets you when you log into MailChimp, and you've got 4 major sections here, and the ones that you're going to go back and forth the most between are campaigns and lists. Campaigns refer to the email blast that you are sending out. Each one is a campaign. And then your lists are the list of contacts that you have in your system. And I'm going to start off with lists, because if you don't have any contacts in your MailChimp account, then you've got no one to send to. So throughout this stream, I'm hoping to go over lists and then choosing a template for your campaign and then how to send a campaign. So I'm going to lists, and I've got a test list here for how greens get things done. The easiest way to add an individual contact to your list is just to click this little person tab over here, and we're going to do that in a moment. But first, a bit about lists. You can handle multiple lists within Mail Merge. So let's say that you are the chair of a county green organization, and then you are also you're also the chair of a working committee of some kind, and you want to have different lists for both of those. You can have those in the same MailChimp account. They will show up as different lists in this area right here. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that those lists, from the perspective of MailChimp, are completely different from each other. They have nothing to do with each other. So if Jane Doe subscribes from one of your lists, Jane Doe will still show up in your second list, and vice versa. And MailChimp will count the emails in those lists totally together when it's calculating the quota for your account. So when I was talking about how you can have a couple thousand contacts in MailChimp for free, if you've got 1,000 emails in one list and 1,000 emails in another, even if a lot of those are the same email addresses, MailChimp will, count 2,000 total, because again, those two different lists are separate from each other. Now, if you want to have a list, like say you've got a county Green Party list, right? And you want to be able to differentiate emailing just your volunteers versus emailing all of your contacts at one time. You're not going to do that through having separate lists on this page. You're going to do that by having separate groups within a list. And I'll show you how to do that. All right, so how to add people to your list. You've got a handy little button right here. You click Add Subscriber, and you plug in the email address, first name, last name, birthday. These are just the default fields right here. So, if I do, Michael@gpny.org, Michael O'Neill. Notice that first and last name are separate. And so in your spreadsheets where you're keeping track of signups, for instance, from a street fair or canvassing, in those spreadsheets, you're going to want to data enter first and last name in separate columns. I highly recommend that for almost any data entry of names that you ever do, because being able to sort people by last name for easy lookup is always a good thing. So take that tip as you will for almost anything that you do. All right, I'm going to leave birthday blank. Well, why not? You guys can know my birthday. My birthday is August 20th. This person gave me permission to email them. If you have someone who's on your list already, but maybe they have a new email address, then you could check this box and it will update their email address. Or actually, more likely, if you wanted, let's say you find out that Michael prefers to go by Mike, then you could enter in the email address here, put in Mike, and then if you click this box to say if this person is on my list, update their profile, then when you hit the subscribe button, it will say, okay, Michael@gpny.org is already in this list. Their first name is recorded as Michael, but as it turns out, Michael prefers to go by Mike, so we're going to update that from Michael to Mike. All right, so we hit subscribe, and Michael@gpny.org was added to the list. If I refresh this page, so we see that we have one subscriber, and if we go into the list itself, it shows the subscribers that are in here. It shows the available columns that you have. And now I want to show you how to create some custom fields. All right, custom fields are fields that track data that MailChimp does not track by default. So let's say you want to, there's actually two different kinds of fields that you can add. Some of them are readily available from MailChimp right away, and then some of them you have to actually create the custom field yourself. And if on occasion during this live stream I say Nation Builder versus MailChimp, it's because I've got my head in a few different databases and sometimes I get them confused, but today we're talking about MailChimp, no matter what I say. All right, so let's talk about these different kinds of fields that we have available, right? List fields and merge tags. So that's under settings. So I'm looking at the settings for a given list, right? And, you know, back in the day, I have to admit it's been a little, okay, add a field, right? So I'm in settings under lists, and if I click on add a field, it gives me different kinds of fields that I can add, which is helpful. You could add a drop-down list for like multiple choice, radio buttons, which is a different kind of multiple choice. An address field is always helpful. And so I'm going to click address. And let's see, so we'll just call it address. And then you decide, do you want to make that a required field when someone signs up? That's up to you. We can do neighborhood is always a good one to put in there. So this is just a text field, a short text field that gives people a line where they can enter something. What's another custom field that we might want to enter? One that's generally helpful is, phone number. Absolutely. You definitely want to have phone number. You might even want to have multiple kinds of phone numbers. So you could do, you know, mobile phone and then a separate one for landline or home phone. Phone format, we'll just do regular phone regular phone format. All right. So we're doing mobile phone, and then we will do another phone, and we're going to call that home phone. And again, we're going to do a US format for that. And then let's put in a one for volunteer, right? And to do that, actually, let's try to do that through adding a segment. When you know that you have data that you're going to use for breaking up your list to send to different portions of your list, that's when you're getting into segments. So a lot of the fields that I have here, you know, I'm not going to send to my list based on a particular phone number, right? It's more just about keeping track of people's information is why I collect that. But if I have a field that's showing whether or not this person is a volunteer or whether or not this person is interested in donating, then that's information that I'm going to use to target messages to specific kinds of contacts in my email database versus others. All right, so getting into segments. Listing and defaults, manage contacts, segments. All right, so that's under manage contacts. I have no saved segments. So what happens when I click on create segment? Contacts match any of the following conditions. Okay, interesting. So this is just giving me different options for creating a segment, and it's not doing exactly what I thought it was going to do. So let's backtrack for a moment, and let's go back to settings, and then list fields and merge tags. And let's go to add a field again, and let's do a radio button, and let's make this for volunteers, and I'll show you what a by what I mean by radio button in just a moment. All right, let's see. Are you interested in volunteering? Yes. No, thank you. I'd like to learn more. It's good to give people a third option. You might have people who are interested in volunteering for your county or your group or whatever, but maybe they feel like they don't have the time to commit, and they would feel bad if they put yes, right? They don't want to commit to something and then have to fall back on it later or not be able to fulfill that, what they feel like is a promise. So then they end up putting no. But in fact, they actually are interested in volunteering, and they might be someone who would be good to reach out to on a particular day when maybe they are available. So that's why it's good to give a third option like I'd like to learn more, or maybe, or what have you. All right, so I click on Save Changes, and that gives me that. And so now if I go to my segments, what I can do is, so go to Manage Contacts, Segments, create a segment. Contacts match any of the following. And under volunteering, are you interested in volunteering? I put, whoops, is yes. And I say Preview Segment. Now there's no one in there, right? Because there are no contacts in that segment that, or there are no contacts in my list, I should say, that fulfill the conditions of that segment, because I only have 2 emails in my whole list. But if I go to Manage Contacts and I go to View Contacts, and I need to get out of this segment. So let's just go to Lists, and then How Greens Get Things Done. Goose egg, no contacts match your selection. Okay. So I'm going to exit out of that segment. Okay, so I click that little X that was over here to get out of there. Now, if I click on michael@gpny.org and I click Actions, what I want to do is edit this contact. So I click on the name, and then I click on the Edit button. And so you can see now we have options for where I can put in my address. And let's see if I can just put in a partial address here. Syracuse, New York, 205, neighborhood, let's say Kirk Park. Phone number I'll leave blank. Am I interested in volunteering? Yes, I am. Click Save. Okay, it's not letting me save that because I didn't enter a complete address. So if you use MailChimp's built-in address field, it's actually a little bit strict. It won't let you save a partial address. And when you data enter addresses, you have to do it in a specific way. So you might choose, instead of using the MailChimp's full address field, to just use a series of text fields to enter in an address that way. And I'm going to show you how to do that before I leave here, I promise. Okay, so, but for the moment, just to sort out this saving for the volunteering. Okay, the subscriber was updated. So now when I go back to lists and I click on How Greens Get Things Done, and then I view saved segments. Okay, create a segment. Contacts match all the following conditions. We're using what's called Boolean logic here. Yes, no, any, or. It comes in really handy in almost any kind of data management in computers. All right, interested in volunteering is yes. I preview the segment. I have one person, me, and this person is showing up because it fulfills the conditions of the segment, which is to say someone who has answered yes as interested in volunteering. So let's see, if I save this segment, then I can name it volunteers. And then this segment will be auto-updated based on anyone who is new that enters the email list that meets those conditions, right? And in this condition, it's volunteer equals yes. And let's just make sure that that works how I think it does. Leaving the auto-update checked ensures that all contacts that match your criteria are pulled into the segment prior to each send. That's a good thing. All right. So that's there. So now, in the future, if I want to show someone who my volunteers are, I go to View Save Segments. Volunteers is already there. I click on that, and then it shows me just my volunteers. Really helpful. And you can use this to put in and track information about your contacts that maybe they have not put in, right? You're going to have online subscription forms that I may have to cover in a different episode, but you're going to have online subscription forms where people enter their data, but also you as an organizer can enter different data yourself, like has this person donated in the past? Is this person a registered green? Is this a person who is a potential candidate? You can enter that information and be able to track your relationships with people much more effectively and efficiently and with greater depth than just trying to keep it all in your head. And also you can share this information with other organizers that you're working with so they have access to information and then they can also make decisions or use their initiative to reach out to people based on a particular need. Okay, let's talk about those addresses again, and it'll give us a chance to go over more regarding custom fields. So under Settings, I go back to List Fields and Merge Tags, and I'm actually going to trash the address field. So I click the trash can. I'm going to type delete, if I can spell it, to confirm. And I'm going to add in address fields manually. So let's add a field. I'm going to make it a text field. And so we'll call this address 1. We'll do another one called address 2. So address 1 would be your house number and street name. Address 2 would be your apartment number or floor number. Click Save to that. And then for address field, we'll put in, for text field, we'll put in city. And then for state, you've got some different options, but let's keep it simple. We'll just say state. You'll want to make sure that you're consistent between if you're doing New York spelled out or NY. So under state, and then MailChimp actually has a built-in field for zip code. And it probably gives you some helpful searching tools for that. So go ahead and use MailChimp's own zip code field for that. All right. So we've got some custom fields in here, and we've got some built-in fields. I want to show you how you can actually import contacts from a spreadsheet into the database so that you don't just have to do it manually in the way that I showed you earlier, because that can get old really quick. So I've got a Google spreadsheet here, and we'll call this test import. And so within my spreadsheet, I'm going to create a column that reflects the different fields that I have available. And for each column, I'm going to have data that matches that information. So we're going to do first name, last name, we're going to do email address, of course. And as I mentioned last week, MailChimp will only accept a contact if it has an email address associated with it. So if you have a contact that you don't have an email address for that person, you're not going to be able to store it in MailChimp. So MailChimp may not meet all of your address bookkeeping needs. You might want to look at another free option like Action Network, or you might just want to have a spreadsheet. But at least with MailChimp, you'll have a kind of backed up form of your database. And whatever you choose, you want to make sure that if you are using MailChimp as your email blaster, that your other address book or contact database is keeping track of similar data so that your fields and things like that are compatible from one way to the other, if that makes sense. All right, first name, last name, email address, phone number, and then volunteer, and then address 1, address 2, city, state, zip, and I think there's also birthday in there, but that's not particularly useful. Neighborhood, and what else we got in our fields? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, we do want to specify whether it's a mobile phone or home phone. And so I'm going to enter a new column to the left here, insert one left. Home phone. All right. Now, when I'm doing data entry in a spreadsheet, I like to make my fields bold. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit if I can, just to make it a little easier for you folks to see, if it's going to let me. I don't think it is. For some reason lately I've had trouble finding how to zoom in on Google Docs. I don't really know why, but I'm just going to do the old trying to insert rows above. No, I'm not actually. I'm trying to zoom in. There we go. All right. So that's a little bigger for you folks. Hopefully that's a little bit more legible. Okay. All right, back to work here. All right, so let's do Jane Doe @gmail.com. Mobile phone is 555-555-5555. Home phone number is 555-444-5555. Volunteer is yes. Address is 101 Test Lane. Let's do apartment 2 in Syracuse, New York, 13205, and neighborhood is South Side. All right. I'm going to attempt to save this, and I want to make sure that I have everything that I need here to save this correctly. Just checking something on my work screen here. So I transitioned away from the magic window for a moment, but don't fret, I will be back. I'm just taking a moment to download this spreadsheet from Google Drive as a comma separated values list. And I want to make sure it's formatted correctly before I upload to Google. And specifically, I want to make sure that I know where it is on my computer before I upload to Google. All right. Before I upload to MailChimp, I should say. I'm going to, let's go back to MailChimp. Let me get this new spreadsheet out of my downloads and get it into another folder where I can work with it, where you guys can see it. So when you download, after you entered your data into Google Drive or into LibreOffice Calc or Microsoft Office Excel, whatever it is that you're using, If you've got a lot of emails, then you are going to want to download a copy of that data to your computer as what's called a CSV file, which stands for comma separated values. And you don't need to really know what that means. You just need to know that it is different than like an Excel file. It's a little bit more stripped down, and applications like MailChimp have an easier time working with that data than if you were, say, trying to upload something exactly from Excel. And maybe MailChimp accepts Excel. It's been a while since I've done an upload, so maybe they have. But in the meantime, let me just make sure that this is going to work the way I think it will. CSV or tab, okay, good. I'll be right back with the magic window so you can see what I'm doing. I promise I won't leave you behind. All right. Okay, that all looks in order. So let's go back to the magic window so you can see what I'm seeing. All right. So going back in MailChimp, so I'm at my lists screen, so this should look familiar to you. And if I click on the little down arrow over here, I go to import. And where do I want to import context from? I want to import from a CSV or a tab delimited text file. CSV is what I downloaded to. I click next. I'm going to click browse. I'm going to click test import. Oh. Let's try that again. One second. Where'd my file go? Here we go. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. I appreciate your patience, as always. Okay, so I go to Browse. I go to Test Import. Test Import. Click Open. Duplicate addresses will be removed. We do not send confirmation emails. You only want to put people in your list that have actually subscribed to be in your list. Just adding people that you grab randomly off of the internet is not a good idea. All right, so I click Next. And I'm going to, for each of these boxes, I'm going to make sure that it matches the title of the column that's in my spreadsheet, right? So it automatically extracts the column names from your first line in your spreadsheet. All right, so first name is matched to first name, that's Jane, so I click Save. Last name is matched to last name, which is Doe, I click Save. Email address is matched to email, I click Save. Mobile phone is all matched up. Home phone is all matched up. You can see this is the data that I actually entered into my spreadsheet. Volunteer. Are you interested in volunteering? I match that up to volunteer. I click Save. Column name. This is for address, right? And so that's for full address. That's weird because I deleted full address. So I put that in for hello. Okay, so we're not going to do full address because we're using our own address fields for that. So I'm actually going to click skip for that. That will not be imported. So I now do address 1. That matches up to address 1. Address 2 is matched up to address 2. That's the apartment field. City, I've matched up to city. State, I match up to state. Zip code, I match to zip. And then neighborhood, I match up to neighborhood. I click Save, boom. And then I click Next. And so it's importing 12 of 13. These people are subscribed. Auto update existing list. That's if you think you might have emails in your spreadsheet that are already in your database, but you want to add new contact info or updated contact info for those people. I click import. And now we see that Jane Doe has been added, and all of Jane Doe's information that we included, mobile phone, home phone, are they interested in volunteering, address information, all that stuff. And it tells you where they were imported. A good custom field to have is the source of a contact. So if you are tabling for Earth Day 2017 and you have a list of people that you signed up that day, having a source field where you can say that all those contacts came from Earth Day 2017 is going to make it much easier to follow up with those people, because you'll have a record of saying, hey, you met the Green Party at our Earth Day table. We would like to tell you about our upcoming climate change event, or yada, 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 right? Or if you know that you met them at a particular rally, or if just that a particular person in your group contacted them and now is passing that on, that information. You could say, oh, right, you know my friend Michael. Michael and I were hoping you could come to an upcoming event, blah, 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 right? So source is a good thing to track in your list. All right, that concludes today's tutorial on MailChimp. I did not get into actually sending an e-blast. Maybe I can do that real quick. Maybe that doesn't exactly conclude it. All right, so in your campaign section, you click Create Campaign. Let MailChimp guide you. They're actually really good at this stuff. They're really good at email design. We don't want to collect subscribers from a pop-up form. Connect with your contacts for campaigns, get results, boost loyalty. Well, these are all new features that I have not tried yet. So let's just do create an email. They've recently added some social media advertising features. I haven't used them yet. I can't recommend them or not recommend them. But you want to create an email, right? You want to call it, I'm going to call it test email. And so you want to send it, in this case, I want to send it to my entire list. There are 3 recipients in my list. All right, you want to give it a subject line, right? Test email subject line. It's going to come from Michael O'Neill, How Greens Get Things Done. It's good to include an actual person's name in an e-blast. That way it's not just coming from a faceless organization. I'm going to click Next. You pick a template, right? The template is the structure of how your email is formatted, and also can include some different design choices. They've got some themes that are here, right, that you can kind of pull from. Okay, so I kind of like this monthly contest thing because it's got green in it. You know I like that. That's on brand. And, you know, maybe we can just kind of adapt that to what we need. So you have these different blocks, right? And each block is edited differently. And some of them are picture blocks, some of them are text blocks, some of them are dividers. So if I change, if I click the little pencil icon there, that's the edit button. That's what you use when you want to edit a block. So I'm going to call this How Greens Get Things Done. And then you've got that, and we'll call this Sundays. Well, we'll call it Weekly Live Stream. Weekly live stream on tips, tricks, and techniques for Green Party activists. Boom. Okay, close. Thank you for watching this episode of How Greens Get Things Done. Do you see I'm just going through each block and clicking the edit button, and then in the right hand side of the screen I actually put in the content that I want to put in. So please share this live stream. We rely on your shares to spread this information. Within your editing box, you've got the stuff that you've come to expect in a word processor. You've got underline, you've got bold, you can italicize things, you can add links. So if I click on, now how do I end up changing this photo? That can be a challenge, right? Styles. If you want to make kind of more advanced changes like the color of text and things like that, you're going to put that under style. Now the question becomes, how did they put in this photo? And so I go to Content, I click Save and Close, drag any of the blocks below to preview on the left. All right, so if you wanted to have more text blocks or more images, then you would actually drag and drop an image from the right into the left, and then it gives you a space to add that image. You can also reposition blocks by clicking and dragging from the left and moving that to a different place. If I want to move the header for some reason all the way to the bottom, you just drag and drop. So it's a fairly kind of intuitive visual interface. That's nice. Design, page, body. Oh, so under body, that's where the background image is. So I can remove that image. And then I just have a nice kind of green background with different shades to contrast, and that's nice. This little block here isn't doing a lot for me, so I'm going to delete that. And then you can have some social buttons at the bottom. You can have a link to your Facebook page, link to your Twitter page, whatever your group has. And so you can play around with this designer. You can drag in different elements. You can drag in columns, so you can have left text and right text. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can choose different fonts, and all of that is just within these the style queue here. So if I want to change the font in this block, I click on Edit, I click on Style, and then I choose, let's say, Helvetica, and we'll make it bold, and I click Save and Close. Okay, that did not work, but that's okay. I can change the font here. I should be able to. What if I change that to Helvetica? Okay, that changed the font. So you can change the font within a given text block to make it what you want. And if you don't pick an existing template, then you have a really basic, almost blank canvas to work from in terms of colors and fonts and things like that. And then after you've composed your email, you click Next, and you double check your subject line, double check your recipients. You want to make sure that their plain text email is identical to your HTML email. If it says that it's not, click Edit, and then click the little Regenerate from HTML button right here. Then you can either schedule your email to send at a particular time. Mornings are generally good. Or you can click Send to just have it send right away. And there you go. So that is the life cycle of an email in MailChimp. I've shown you how to create custom fields. I've shown you how to import people from a spreadsheet into your MailChimp list, including custom fields. And I've walked you through some basics of how to compose an email in MailChimp. A word of advice: play with this stuff before you have an email blast to do. You don't want to be trying to figure out how to compose emails in MailChimp when you're also trying to get an email blast out the door for the first time. That can be really stressful. It can make you really prone to make mistakes. Trying to put time on your side as much as possible is a good thing, especially when you're first starting out. So play around with this stuff, and like I said, it's free. And you can send yourself test emails to see how they look in your other Gmail account or your Thunderbird client or Hotmail or Yahoo, whatever you're using. And that's MailChimp. So I think it's a really helpful tool for green groups that are just starting out. And I recommend that you use that. And it gives you some good practices and skills to apply to other systems like Nation Builder and other things that are out there in the universe. This has been How Greens Get Things Done. My name is Michael O'Neill. I'm the staff organizer for the Green Party of New York. I'm here every Sunday, although actually I'm not going to be here possibly next Sunday. My cousin is getting married in my ancestral home state of Ohio, and so I will be traveling on Sunday. I may not be able to do a live screencast, but I will try to do a pre-recorded video that will be uploaded at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So keep an eye out for that. But I'm here most Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time talking about tips, tricks, and techniques for Greens to build the Green Party, build their campaigns, have an impact on the movements that matter to us and to the left. And I want to thank you for watching. Thank you very much for sharing this screencast and for your likes and your questions. You can contact me at michael@gpny.org. Again, that's michael@gpny.org. You can also leave comments and questions in the comments for this live stream. And another promise I'll make is to get these up on YouTube before next weekend, so that you can find archives of these there, and also get an archive going on gpny.org. Some future episodes that I'd like to do is talk about the vote for the New York State Constitutional Convention. That will be in November. New York voters will be deciding whether or not they want to have a constitutional convention. Our Green Party of New York State Committee will be meeting this upcoming Saturday, the 16th, for their quarterly meeting, and that'll be one of the items that we'll be deliberating is, do we want to take a position on this as a state party? If so, what is that position? There are really strong arguments within the progressive left movements and circles about whether or not to have a state constitutional convention. So we'll have more to talk about following next week. And if you have any recommendations, any suggestions about questions that you have come across in your own organizing, in your own work within the Green Party or within a Green campaign that you would like to see a tutorial on or an explainer or an interview, please send me an email at michael@gpny.org, or you can post it here in the comments. Thanks again for watching. If I don't see you live next week, I promise I will miss you dearly. I will try to get at least some kind of a pre-recorded video up there for you to enjoy. And until then, have a great weekend.